So this is Louis. I decided, it's about time I actually talk about this because it's seemingly on the horizon where I'm going to have to do another Ethan video. I'm going to have to do another PewDiePie video. I'm going to have to do another Boogie video. And that has to do with ChrisRayGun. So I intentionally avoided name dropping him in the past, and it's because I didn't want to jump the gun and start accusing somebody of something without evidence, without having clear-cut signs of their behavior in that. And unfortunately in this, what I'm not going to do is ascribe motivation. There's a lot of people that are doing that in response to me, are saying like, well, this is why, this is why. And I don't want to do that because what Chris has is an ace up his sleeve, which is his continual references to his own mental issues, which I'm not going to trample upon or mock or anything else, because what that immediately does is shift the focus from my video, my complaints, to me being an asshole. So what I'm going to do is mention the fact that Chris is seemingly having some mental issues, and that is coming from him. He's claiming that. And what I'm not going to do in this is ascribe motivation in terms of where it's coming from, where it's stemming from. But one of the things that I do think needs to be addressed is the fact that Chris consistently, for months, has been, I'm not really sure what the right word would be, retriangulating where he stands as it relates specifically to SJWs, and it has always been in a dismissive fashion. It's never in the context of, well, here's what I think about this politically, and here's where I once was, or I used to think this, or there's no real evolution that's happening that we can see, because he's not posting content. What we do see is him on Twitter just saying things. And one of the things that I find annoying about him is this fact, that he's not posting content. He's no longer talking about politics in any sense other than situations like this. I don't know if he's even doing that podcast still with Colin. I have no idea. Maybe I should have paid attention more to that podcast to know if he's still doing it. But outside of that, and the random occasional video of which, there was the one time he did that one video with Bunty. I don't even remember whose channel it was on, where he said some stupid shit in that. His backpedaling has been on a long basis. It's not just been this tweet. And I've been hinting at this for quite a while now, but not saying it outright, because Chris has many friends. But this is the thing that angered me. So, Chris is out there bad-mouthing people like me. I take personal slight to this tweet by him and others as well, because I'm the kind of person that is going to be in his mind, even though he doesn't know me, I'm the guy in his mind that is equivalent to SJWs. And the reason is that I look at, let's say, something like Red Dead, and I say, why aren't there any black suffragettes in this game? Why are the suffragettes offering rhetoric that the real ones didn't believe in? What's the purpose of this mission in this game? Why is this here? This doesn't make sense. Now, that being present in the game, what I do is I say, well, that's SJW influence in Rockstar, whether it's external or someone within the company, which is far more likely at this point. The reason why that's there, the reason why you have these suffragettes spouting inane feminist rhetoric that they didn't believe, that the suffragettes did not believe. The beauty of the situation, and it makes it so easy for me, is to point out the fact that, go look at the game, right? Go look at that game. Go watch those scenes. What's one thing you notice? Everyone involved is white. Well, Chris, why is that? Why? Is it just coincidence? Because if you go elsewhere in the game, there's Chinese people everywhere, there's black people everywhere, even though it's often in cases that don't make a lot of sense, such as the black sheriff of Tumbleweed. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Seems like something out of a comedy film.
As chairman of the welcoming committee, it is my privilege to extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new nigger.
Why is this in the game? But here's the thing. Let's dismiss all that. Let's say I'm totally off base on that it's just in the game because the developers they're all well-intentioned and they thought it would work for that instance. Why, in the situation with suffragettes, is everyone white? Why? There's an answer to that question. There's a real-life answer. There's a reason why in history that all the suffragettes and all those that were, against them were all white men. There's a reason. There's a reason why that's present in the game, Chris. And here's the thing. I know that if I were to sit down and spend the time that is required of me to showcase to whoever will listen to me why I think this is in the game, and all the different examples just in Red Dead Redemption 2, all the different examples that are in that game of things that don't make a whole lot of sense. Put it in historical context, doesn't make a lot of sense. Seems like a game that's based in fucking San Francisco and is based on the morality of San Francisco. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so someone says, oh, they say darky here and someone's dropped the N-word. They said the N-word in this one instance. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. You have a character like Micah say darkies, I believe he said. Well, he's supposed to be taken as an asshole as a character. That's a very shorthand way for us all to look at him and gasp and say, oh, how dare he say the word darky about black people in their group, in their criminal gang. It's like, what is worse, Lenny killing and robbing people or Micah calling him a darky? Which is worse? But anyways, I'm getting kind of sidetracked by the hilarity of this. Getting to the point that I'm actually upset about, you shouldn't be posting shit like this of like, whoa, the SJWs, man, what are they even really doing? What are they actually doing and how are people like me equivalent to them? Well, bro, I didn't just cost your friend, my friend, Carl Benjamin, his fucking career on Patreon. Notice I didn't do that. I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, and I'm going, oh, there's SJW presidents in this game. Notice I'm not trying to take away people's careers. Notice I'm not trying to attack your fucking friends. This just happened. This just happened to Carl. What, 2 days ago, 3 days ago? How many days ago was this? And you're here downplaying these people, downplaying their influence, downplaying the control they have over goddamn everything, whether it's YouTube. And here's a good example, right? I can't tell Jack Conte, the president, CEO, whatever, of Patreon to go do something to himself. I want him to grab some rope, find a good supporting beam in his house, and do something. I can't tell him what to do. You know why? Because I'll be suspended off of YouTube by SJWs. I'll be suspended off of Twitter by SJWs. I'll be suspended off of Facebook by SJWs. I will be suspended everywhere for telling Jack Conte to go do something bad. Even though I'm not giving him the rope, I'm not in his house helping him pick out a fucking support beam. I'm not doing anything to facilitate that. It's just an insult. It's just rhetorical. It's just me being dismissive of his existence because of what he did personally to Sargon, despite being in contact with him, despite talking about this exact issue after they banned Lauren Southern. The reason why I don't like Jack, despite being on Patreon and being fine with the overall service, it's that he's banning people that are on my side, Sargon's side, maybe not your side anymore, fucking Chris. You need to figure out your shit. I don't give a damn what excuses you're going to come up with for your own laziness and weakness. You need to figure out which side you stand on, because this continual dismissal of the people that are attempting to take away your friends' livelihoods, their careers, it's pathetic of you. You are weak because he was targeted and he was removed from Patreon by SJWs for the sake of their ideology. That's why it fucking matters. That's why I care about it being in gaming. The industry, the content, the community. That's why I care. Because everywhere it shows up, everywhere there's involvement from activists and sympathizers and the rest, you have nothing but bad consequences. So people bring up examples, and I could as well. Yeah, how about Far Cry 5? So people that are in my camp, we like to bring up examples of things that don't make sense, things that require an explanation because they don't reflect reality in any sense. And that is Montana in Far Cry 5. Montana, like any rural state, is extremely white. They have a native minority population demographically, but outside of that, and like a very small Asian minority in Montana, it is incredibly white of a state. Demographics are incredibly white. Now the problem is, I see white people, and I see diversity. I see, your yuppies, or your old businessmen, or your old tradesmen, or your young tradesmen. There's a diversity as it relates to white people, and even just, let's say, white men. Diversity of people. Problem is that SJWs don't see that. When they look at whites, they see a monolith, because they are in fact racist and collectivists. So when people say, do you support diversity and inclusivity, the natural reaction to any normal person is, of course, because they include whites and white men and white straights and whatever into those categories. They believe that those people can be diverse or inclusive. You have to include those people. And that includes conservatives, Christians, and the rest. Even if they themselves aren't absolutely tolerant or on board with everything that the left is, they are still part of the fabric of American society. They are still part of America, and they are Americans. So if you were to be inclusive, you would include them as well, because that's inclusion. The problem is that diversity and inclusion are code words of SJWs, of progressives. I don't like the fact that people are saying now that, we shouldn't use the word SJW anymore because it's an insult. It's like, okay, how about progressive? How about progressive? Because I do think that you can generalize about progressives. I think you have your full-throated bigots that are progressives, and then you have your Kyle Kalinskis, who are on board with everything, but are just trying to put a soft touch in everything. They're just trying to apologize for everything. They're not really liberals. They're not really more like Sargon in terms of their philosophy. They're not. They just pretend to be. They feign that for the sake of goading people into progressive ideology. I don't know what you would call them, shepherds, or maybe something that would imply more sinister nature, or beguiling, or deceitful nature. But that's what he is, and that's what a lot of people are, because it's very hard for your average progressive, not SJW, progressive, to win people over. It's not easy for them to do that. What it requires is a soft touch. And it's one of those manipulative things that I don't like. Because you're not actually trying to get somebody into no longer being a bigot or a collectivist. No, you're in fact trying to deceive them into becoming one. That's one of the reasons why I can't stand Kyle, outside of his own personal cowardice and the rest. It is the fact that he is deceitful. He is manipulative. He's trying to coerce people using lies and rhetoric to get them in the fold, to stand down, so to say. So if I were to look at a game like Far Cry 5 and say, why is it so ridiculously multiracial? Why is it so multiracial that I can only think of like one Native American in the game, even though Montana has a minority of Native Americans? Like, it would make sense to have a Native minority in the game. And I can include Red Dead Redemption 2 in that, by the way. Same thing. Multiracial is shit, although Far Cry 5 is a lot more on the nose about it. It doesn't make sense. So, then, why? Why? Why is it there? Why is it like this? Why is it in its present form? Why is it that half the enemies you fight and half the allies you have are composed of women? Even including dumpy women. Several instances of that in the game. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if you know anything about fat people. They're not very good at combat. They're not very good at running. They're not very good at a lot of things that are required in order to be in a militia. Like, a lot of the militiamen in the Jacob Seat part, the north of the game, of Hope Valley, it makes some sense because a lot of them are fit, they're in shape and that, and so it makes sense. Yeah, you would expect them to be in a militia. But the fat women, who very likely couldn't, like, lift themselves over an obstacle, and I mean that, They couldn't physically do that. With their own weight and lack of muscle mass, they couldn't do it. Why are they included in this? Why? Doesn't make any sense. Not even from a physical standpoint doesn't make any sense. Why are they included in this? Why? And seemingly there's no answer. I can come up with one, but I guess that makes me equivalent to Anita Sarkeesian. And here's the way in which I can pull that away from you. It's not hard. Anita Sarkeesian once just outright said that this is not about video games. This is about progressive politics. This is about me putting my politics, my ideological beliefs into these products.
For me, the big picture has always been cultural change, and how culture was just a vehicle and a medium to which cultural change can happen or can be influenced by. So it's not actually about video games.
To me, this is about the video games. I'm not here to be the opposition for the sake of forwarding my own ideological beliefs, in that these games need to reflect everything that I could ever think of on a whim. You know, if you set this game in fucking Africa, I want everybody to be white. Something like that, which would be equally ridiculous. You don't see me saying that. I don't see anyone saying that, in fact. Occasionally I'll find people that are a bit mean or conspiratorial, and maybe that's what you could label me. But the thing is that I'm not costing people their career. I'm not costing people, and the thing is, though, is that if I had the power to, there's only a handful of people that I would do that to. And it would be bullies. Ideological bullies within these companies. Or whatever, the journalistic outlets, whatever they would be. If you have somebody within a company that is parading around and demanding things of people, demanding ideological consensus within a company, I would fire those people. If I had the power to do it, I'd do it. I wouldn't care if they had a family or anything else. They often don't. It's just usually them. They're usually kind of miserable, sad people. Even in the case that they did have a family to support, they're bullies. They're bullies. They're ruining the medium. They're ruining art. And they're, in essence, doing what the Nazis did and what the Soviets did to artists and to an artistic medium. They're demanding conformity, demanding consensus, using coercive tactics to achieve that, and people like you and others are bending down to allow them to do it. Because it's happening in these companies. We know this from insiders. We know this from people that have quit. We know this from examples of like James Damore, who quit, or I can't remember, fired from Google, and others as well. He's not the only one. Where they say this. There's just people in the company that are bullies, that are demanding ideological consensus, and everyone just bends their head down and gives it to them. And I'm sorry, but I'm not a weakling. I'm not like you. I'm not a pansy. I'm not a pussy. I'm not somebody going around going, oh, I'm having mental problems. And that's going to excuse all my bad actions. Maybe I should edit that out of this video because, oh, I just crossed the line. I just crossed the line. I'm making fun of somebody. Oh, no. Even though what you're doing in this is just paving the ground in which, why I did the video a while back called The Inconsequential Death of Western Gaming, which I cite because some people understand this fully, but for whatever reason there's people that follow me that don't get it. That no matter what I try to do in this, I lose. As it relates to talking about gaming from the context of, well, here's some examples of what's happening in gaming. All these things are bad. Oh, look at this character in Red Dead Redemption 2. She's a fucking awful Mary Sue. She's terrible. She's physically overpowering like multiple men, 3 men in one instance, and murdering them with her hands. Not with a pistol, with her hands. Murdering and overpowering physically 3 men. Ridiculous. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Awful fucking character. But if I make a video laughing about her, remarking about her, trying to dig up any information I can about why she was put into the game, or anything else that's in Red Dead, Far Cry 5, any other game that comes out, what immediately happens is somebody like Chris comes out and says, you're Anita. What do? I can say that, well, Anita didn't really care about games. I really do care about games. And then you go, no, you're just like Anita. You just dismiss my actual motivation, my genuine concern that I don't want every goddamn gaming company. It doesn't even have to be, like, just give me one, man. Like, even CD Projekt Red, I know from inside sources, is being infiltrated by SJWs. From somebody that worked for them, I know they're being fucking infiltrated. And it's like, okay, what do I do? If I talk about it, I'm a fucking SJW. I'm fucking Anita. I was a fan of BioWare a big fan of BioWare, up until the company decided to burn itself, incinerate itself, for the sake of SJW ideology, of progressive ideology. That now everyone thinks of BioWare as shit. Everyone thinks BioWare is shit now. Even if they want to lie to people and say, oh no, Anthem could be possibly good. No, everyone thinks that BioWare is now a living joke, a zombie company that is being kept alive by EA, not because it's profitable, it isn't, but for the sake of pushing those politics. That is the singular reason why. Just to shovel out a game like Anthem, try to make a bit of money through microtransactions or whatever other bullshit, but also to forward SJW propaganda. But if you say that as a former fan, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore because you are just Anita Sarkeesian. You are just this thing that I can easily dismiss, despite the fact that I have no power over these companies. I don't have a million activist organizations lobbying every one of these companies to do everything I want. I don't have the ability to fire people because they disagree with me. But SJWs do. They have all of that. They have all of that influence. They have all of those connections. They are in all of these companies. They are doing all of these things. I'm not. No one on my side is. Quote unquote my side. No one on my side is doing any of these things. They are doing it currently. They just did it to your fucking friend. But you don't care. You don't care. You really don't. You see this as something that is disconnected from yourself. And it calls into question all the content that you've done in the past. Because over the past several years that I've been doing YouTube, even in my own small way, my principles have not changed. I may have taken up a banner or two that is disconcerting to some people, including some people like Carl, but it's for good reason. It's not because of just personal interest or my triangulation of what's going to get me more subs or more supporters. Or what is going to make my friends comfortable. Wink, wink. It is what I believe. And if I have to butt heads with somebody like Carl, or if I have to butt heads with somebody like Dank, and by the way, that was a very awkward instance, by the way, especially afterwards. Very awkward, but I did it anyways, and I don't care. I don't care that, maybe Dank thinks less of me now. Or maybe he doesn't. I don't really know. I don't really know where we stand. But even in that instance, I'm glad that I did it just for the sake of trying to keep our side where I think we should be. Even though Carl wants to look at me and dismiss me for certain reasons and thinks that I'm trying to fight something that I shouldn't be fighting for and that I should be a lot more worried about winning the overall war and not trying to win one battle. But I do think that this battle is something that is crucial to what I'm seeing, and that is the increasing censorship of art. This is getting out of control in gaming. In anime, it's starting to become a serious issue. We're seeing censorship of art everywhere. And I think that lowly, which people can go ugh about, I think that is the back door, so to say, of where all this is going to stem from. I think we're going to see some really bleak censorship in the future as it relates to anime, Japanese games, and the rest of it. And I think that this is going to be the excuse. It's going to be, well, this girl looks underage, therefore. And people are going to look and go, whoa, I don't want to take the side of that. And I got to say, Carl, you're on that side currently of, whoa, and you have no idea what's coming. This is going to be the opening that the SJWs will ram their hand through. And this is getting more sexual as I'm going on. They're going to ram their fist through somebody's back door. And anyways, they're going to use lowly as the means by which to censor art. And it's going to be on a mass scale. And I'm seeing a lot of smoke in that direction. A lot of smoke out of that back door. Anyways, my point being that you got to be aware of this shit. You can't just be dismissive. Like, I just don't get it. Like, no, the SJWs, man, like, what are they really doing? You know who's at fault? That guy in the comment section who's like, oh, fucking feminism You know, oh man, fuck feminism. Lol, look at this suffragette in Red Dead Redemption 2 getting fed to an alligator or pigs or something. Lol. That guy's the fucking problem. The guy in the goddamn comment section is the equivalent of a Neo Sarkeesian meeting with developers, instructing them to do something in their game, and them doing it. That is the equivalent. Goddamn Chris. Intellectual titan, ChrisRayGun. Philosophical titan, ChrisRayGun. Guy that needs some counseling and some therapy, ChrisRayGun. You want some genuine advice? Get the fuck out of California. That's my fucking advice for you. I really don't want to continue to say something that people get angry about me. I've had people, you know, DM me and private message me and say to me that I'm being wrong by saying this. But I think that if you want to be a normal functioning person, get the fuck out of LA, get the fuck out of San Francisco, the Bay Area, get the fuck out of New York City, get out of Portland, and get out of Seattle, get out of these fucking SJW third world shitholes. Get out of those cities, because they turn you into SJWs. You either start to become a myopic fucking, what would it be? Not misandrist. Misanthrope. You turn into somebody that starts hating humanity until you get the fuck out of those areas. And a good example I can cite is Blonde from the Belly of the Beast, I think her name is, from Matt Christensen's podcast. She was turning into a fucking misanthrope. Why? She lived in, like, I think Seattle. She moved out of fucking Seattle. She immediately decompressed. She immediately stopped hating everyone around her. When she started to be around normal fucking people. Functional fucking people. Where not everyone is a goddamn neurotic actor. You know, maybe in those instances you start to reflect every fucking neurotic asshole around you. So I know that I'm going to get at least one private message for saying that. I'm going to get at least one person that I have some connection with who's going to go, Louis, you shouldn't have said that. That's too personal. That's too personal. You shouldn't have said that. Well, it's true. It's true. Get the fuck out of these cities. It's probably the reason that Sargon hasn't turned into a fucking egomaniac retard. Is the reason he's now living in London. And I'd say that to Paul Joseph Watson. Get the fuck out of London. I don't want to, say that Paul Joseph Watson is doing anything wrong, but get the fuck out of London, dude. Get out of these cities. Get out of them, because they're terraforming and formatting people's minds to reflect every neurotic progressive around them. It might be part of the private message I get is, well, you're telling people to stop being friends or to break up with people. And it's like, well, there is such a thing as unhealthy relationships. There are such a thing as abusive friends. I've had abusive friends. You know, if I'm going to sit here and talk about my anecdotal experience and say, oh, I'm such a victim, I've had abusive friends. I've been in relationships that were coercive. It's one of the reasons why I'm not very trusting as a person, is I've had abusive friends. And so I'm very selective of who's allowed to be my friend. That's the reason why, is because I've been in abusive relationships. And I mean real ones. I don't mean like, it's ridiculous, like I was gang raped or some shit like that. But I'm saying that I've been in relationships that were years long, where the other person involved was multiple people were abusive assholes. They manipulated me. They abused me. They took advantage of my naivete, my generosity, and the rest. Before I realized that this is an unhealthy relationship, these people don't care about me. They just like fucking with me. They're just bullies. I should just get away from these people. And that's what I did. And I had to go a year of my life, and this is a sad fact, okay? I had to go a year of my life with no friends. It was either late middle school or early high school. I had an entire year with no friends. I was just by my fucking self. I had a best friend of mine that just stopped interacting with me. He started doing weed, just started hanging out with other people. Like, I never talked to him again after that. And then that happened, and I had no friends. And it was terrible. I was incredibly lonely, and I became incredibly mistrustful of people. Thankfully, high school, I think, even though it was a fucking roller coaster, it kind of balanced me out, I think, to some degree. And I think college did as well. But the fact is that you should not be around people that are just looking for you to be them. If you have a friend that is not respectful of your differences, even slight ones, if they're not respectful of your politics and differences you have with them, then fuck them. You might have to go a year without friends, like I did. And it's not a fun thing. But that's the cost you have to pay for not being in abusive relationships with people that are destroying you. And I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not even going to say anything else other than that. I'm just going to leave that inference where it is. But in conclusion to this video, which is not a rant, it's not equivalent to my previous videos, and I do not intend it to be like my previous videos talking about Ethan and others, because in those instances there were clear-cut examples of people doing wrong, or in the case of PewDiePie, doing what he knew he should not have done, which is bend the knee. In that one instance, he's been doing it a little bit underneath the surface now and then, but he's still a coward in that sense that he still won't talk to Sargon. He won't hang out with Sargon. He won't have any connection to Sargon, and it's not because he doesn't like him, but it's because he's a pussy. He thinks there's too much at stake, and so he doesn't want to be near Carl, and I'm sure Carl would say, like, oh, well, he shouldn't be near me if he thinks it's going to cost him, and all the other bullshit. It's just cowardice. It's just being afraid of the eternal SJW looking to frickin' destroy people's careers, as they did to him, as they have done to everyone. As they're doing to me currently by proxy, because now I have to move over to fucking subscribers star, whatever the fuck it is. I gotta move over there because everyone's pulling out a fucking Patreon. You know, I've already lost something like $60-something a month because of what Jack Conte did. It's not Sargon's fault. People are like, oh, Sargon's pulling out. It's his fault. Bro, he didn't have a choice. He got literally removed from the platform. It's Jack's fault. Jack Conte owns what is happening to Patreon right now. So everyone's sitting there going, oh my god, all these people are leaving my Patreon. It's because of Jack. People are disgusted with what's happened. What do you want people to do? Christ. You know, let me go and grab some of my subscribers and put a chain around their neck and say, no, you're my pay pigs. Like, what is that called? Findom? Like, that's what that is. If you want to go, you know, force your subscribers to stay on Patreon, then that's what you're doing. You got to do what you got to do as it relates to keeping people happy. And you're not bending your principles by having to go to another platform. You're bending your principles by saying that, oh, well, the SJWs, man, they didn't do nothing. That's the thing about SJWs, man. They just didn't do nothing. And they're not in gaming. They're not in gaming. They haven't already destroyed Marvel Comics where they're about... this is insider knowledge. They're about to pull out, apparently, of their New York City like offices because they can't afford it, and they're laying people off because they're fucking collapsing as a company. Not the movies, but the comic books. Why SJWs? But no. Let me just sit here idly as SJWs do the exact goddamn thing to all the companies that I grew up with and loved in gaming. Because I'm just a shill for some ideology. No one can name what it is, but I'm just a shill for an ideology, just like Anita. All I want is for these gaming companies to just literally make good games, quality games. If they have a black character here, just have it make sense. And if you want to have a black character in your game, or whatever kind of character that's diverse and inclusive in your game, just have it make sense. If I'm supposedly in Montana and everyone around me is anything other than white or Native American, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, why not just have it make sense? You have the black preacher, you have that black soldier, why can't they be brother and sister? Why can't they be from a notable black family in the area where everyone goes like, oh yeah, I love those guys. It can be diverse, everyone can suck their ass for being black, but it can just still make sense in the context of the fucking setting. But no, instead, what do? Lazy shit. Always. The eternal SJW writer. The lazy hack. Just include all this shit that doesn't make any fucking sense. That is glaring and on the nose. And if anyone disagrees, everyone goes, well, this is shit. This is SJW crap propaganda. You just call me equivalent to Anita, and then Chris will rush out and say, oh yeah, you're right. You don't really care. You're not really about video games. You're not really a gamer. You're the equivalent of her. You're just like any other SJW. By the way, Chris, if you agree, take down the videos. Because other people have, when they've gone, oh man, everyone's an SJW. Everyone's like the SJWs. Look over there. Don't pay attention to what these people are doing. They're costing my friends their fucking careers. But don't worry about that. Go look over there at something else. You know, while you're doing that, why not just take down the videos then? If that's the fucking side you're going to stake out for yourself, where you don't give a goddamn what these people are doing now, take down the videos. Take down the videos, by the way, that made you popular. That to me is the whole other side of this. And it's why I'm going to pick the name that I'm going to pick for this video. That is where the title of this video is going to come from. Is the fact that this material made you who you are. Nothing else. You are not an exceptional comedian. You're not an exceptional entertainer. You're not an exceptional commentator. It is the fact that you have creative talent, but that you struck when the iron was hot. You used your talent to forward these particular ideas in contrast to these other ones. That made you popular. And now that you are, you've completely self-destructed. You're nowhere to be fucking seen. You're doing podcasts with one of the worst fucking people to come out of gaming as a medium or as an industry or the industry, the cottage industry surrounding it. One of the absolute worst people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that part out. I just talked about a certain person, and I think that people are going to take away the wrong thing from that. They're going to think I'm making it about a single person. So I'm going to cut that part out of this where I talk about a single person that Chris is associated with that I think is... It's a completely abhorrent person, a dreck of a person. Someone who, in the face of those in gaming who laid down the groundwork of what happened, he didn't just lay down, he facilitated it personally, helped, and then was betrayed by those same people. And for whatever reason, people see him as an ally. When it's like, all you have to do is do a cursory search of this guy's history, and you'll know that he is one of the absolute fucking worst and weakest people out there. And if you had any sense, you would never associate yourself with him. I'm not going to name them because then it's all it's going to be is that's who I'm talking about. And it's not. It's hardly the only person that I'm talking about in terms of bad friends to have. I think that the way things are progressing, this is just going to be another Ethan video. This is just going to be another Boogie video. This is just going to be another rant by me when the shoe drops. The shoe that I'm waiting for is going to drop. I know it is. The way that things are going, it is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. The shoe's going to drop. The Steve Shives moment is going to come. And then it's just going to be like, well, I called it and time to do my video. Maybe I'll make it a Patreon video or a subscriber, whatever the fuck, video. That way I can at least monetize the fact that I was right and that somebody who I expected to do what they would have done in that instance, did it. And, you know, maybe it's a learning moment. We can spot them earlier and start calling them out earlier. Because I think that you either believe what you believe or you don't. You either have to stand up for what you believe or you have to do the triangulation of, well, I'm living in California, I have all these friends, they're all of a certain political persuasion, or they're so weak that they may as well be. And I'm reassessing who I am. And everyone around me is a freaking neurotic asshole actor. Musician, or comedian, or whatever. Like, they're all fucking neurotic leftists. Maybe move. Maybe. That's all I'm saying. Even if it's hard, even if you have to find new friends and all that, you're popular, dude. You can get new friends, but you should move. And I would say that to John Tron in New York City. I'd say that to you out, I believe it's LA, but maybe it's somewhere else in California. I'd say that to Paul Joseph Watson in London. Anyone who's living in one of those kind of cities, get out of those cities. Get out of them. Because you're in a wasteland of neurotic leftists that are going to eventually make you theirs. You are going to become their peon, their pet, their fucking wastrel. You will become that over time. It's happened more than once, and I'm not going to name any names, but it's happened before. And I think that you are who you are surrounded by. If you surround yourself with strong people, respectful people, open-minded people, people that are of all different political persuasions but are respectful of yours, I think any kind of relationship, respect should be reciprocal. You should be respectful of your friends and generous with your friends and all that, but they should be as well with you. If you aren't in that situation, you need to get in that situation. You need to have friends like that. And you need to realize when everyone around you is a fucking... it's a mess! A mess. A dysfunctional. That's a polite way of saying it. When everyone around you is dysfunctional and you are dysfunctional, why don't you try to go around functional people? And by the way, being a functional human being is, as we can see formerly with Boogie to a large extent, maybe even currently with Boogie. It's my big problem with Boogie back then was how dysfunctional he was, and yet he's running around lecturing people. Being a functional human being isn't a prerequisite to fame. As we all know, I mean, that's a truthism right there, or a truism, rather. We all know that to be true, and that's the issue, is you need to be around functional human beings. I'm not going to bring up myself in this, because I do have my shortcomings, and I am, to a small degree, neurotic, but I recognize that as being unhealthy, and I try to look at others that are more functional than myself and look at them and say, how do I become that? How do I become more functional and more normal as a person? Not just in my beliefs, because I don't care if people disagree with me. It's not a matter of groupthink. It's just a matter of function. Paying your bills, buying a house, living a good life, mowing your lawn, dating. To me, that's the big shortcoming at this point in my life. But just everything else. Repairing a wall, painting a wall, repairing a fridge, cleaning out a fridge. How do I become more normal? How do I become more functional and have more utility as a man? How do I do that? How? How do I stop being a neurotic mess that complains on Twitter 24/7? How? By the way, that's not me. How do I do that? And the answer is you look to others. You surround yourself with those people. But I'll leave it there. That's just some genuine advice from me. And I hope people can appreciate this video and recognize that it's not me simply bad-mouthing somebody. It is me trying to explain something before it becomes another instance of somebody becoming Ethan from H3H3, where the audience shifts. And that's what I think will happen. Eventually the audience will shift. Eventually the Steve Shives moment will come. And this person will be lost. And it will not be because of me, and it won't be because of this video. It will be because of them. So, thanks for listening.